Hello everyone. In this video, we will learn about the past perfect tense. But make sure before you start the past perfect tense that you've understood the simple past. The past perfect is a bit different, but it's so easy. Well, the simple past talks about an action that is completed or finished in the past. However, the past perfect is different. The past perfect is what we call the past in the past. For example, we have here the simple present, here is the future, and here is the past. The past perfect is the past in the past, so it is here. But the past perfect, as we said, talks about two actions in the past. Action number one is here, and action number two is here. So how do we form the past perfect? For example, she had finished her homework when I called her. Here we have two verbs. First verb is had finished and it is in the past perfect. The second verb is call and it is in the simple past. And here we have two actions. So she had finished her homework is the first action, and when I called her is the second action. But we here are interested in the second verb had finished, which is in the past perfect. So here we have had auxiliary plus finished, which is the past participle of the verb finish. Now I want you to know that this had is an auxiliary, but it doesn't change even when we change the pronouns. So for example, you can say I had finished, you had finished, he had finished, she had finished, we had finished, they had finished. It doesn't change, though the pronoun changes. Another example, before she moved to London, she had studied English. The verb moved is in the simple past and the verb had studied is in the past perfect. So before she moved to London is the second action that happened in the past, and she had studied English is the first action which happened in the past. So the rule of the past perfect is subject plus had plus past participle. Now we move to the negative form, which means saying not. For example, she hadn't finished her homework when you called her. In this sentence here, we have two verbs again, but we are interested in hadn't finished. So in this hadn't finished, we have subject plus hadn't or had not plus past participle. And this is the rule of the negative form of the past perfect. Interrogative form of the past perfect, or how do we form questions in the past perfect? Let's focus on the example we used from the very beginning. She had finished her homework when you called her. So if you want to have a question here, you need only to change the order of the subject and the auxiliary had, which means had she finished her homework when you called her, and put a question mark at the end of the sentence. So the rule of the interrogative form of the past perfect is had plus subject plus past participle of the verb. So remember this. For the affirmative form, the rule is subject plus had plus past participle. For example, I had revised the lesson before I took the exam. In the negative form, the rule is subject plus hadn't or had not plus past participle. For example, I hadn't revised the lesson before I took the exam. And for the interrogative form, the rule is had plus subject plus past participle. For example, had you revised the lesson before you took the exam? Uses of the past perfect. So when and how do we use the past perfect? Firstly, as we said before, we use it to talk about two actions in the past, one happening before the other. For example, here is the future, here is the present, and here is the past. Let's say at this point in the past, Sarah went to bed. At another point here, in the past, Sarah watched TV. Some people would say, after Sarah watched TV, she went to bed. And here, they have used both the verb watched and went in the simple past. which is wrong in the English grammar. And here comes the rule of the past perfect to clarify the order of these two actions. So we use the past perfect in the first action. And the correct sentence is, before Sarah went to bed, she had watched TV. Or you can use after and say, after Sarah had watched TV, she went to bed. Secondly, we use the past perfect to express cause and effect combined with simple past. So for example, let's say at this point he was tired, and at this point here in the past he worked all day. This action here happened because of this action, so there is a cause and effect between these two actions in the past. So if I ask you, why was he tired? Your answer might be because he worked all day, and here you use the simple past, which is not correct in the English. You have to use this past perfect here and say because he had worked all day. And the correct sentence is he was tired because he had worked all day. So there is a kind of cause and effect relationship between these two actions in the past. We use the past perfect also when there is an action or situation in the past and continued until another action happened. For example, at this point in the past, we lived in Rabat, and it's for a period of 8 years. But at this point in the past, we moved to Agadir. So the sentence is, we had lived in Rabat for 8 years before we moved to Agadir. So the action 1 is continued for a period of time, then stopped by another action, and we move to Agadir. Let's move to do some practice. Exercise number 1. So put the verbs in the simple past or the past perfect. You can stop the video and try to do the exercise. Let's start with the first sentence. After I arrived home, I realized I not buy any milk. In this sentence, we have arrived here, which is in the simple past. And we have also after. So after I arrived home is the second action. So we need to use the past perfect. But here we have not, so we need the negative form of the past perfect, and then we're going to say I hadn't bought any milk. The second sentence. It not rained all summer, so the grass was completely dead. In the sentence we have was, which is in the simple past, and here we have the linking words, so to show the result of a past action, and the sentence here, the grass was completely dead, is the second action. So we need to use here the past perfect tense. And here again we have not, which means we need the negative form of the past perfect. So we're gonna say it hadn't rained all summer, so the grass was completely dead. Sentence number 3. When he arrived at the party, Jolie had just left. In this sentence here we have had just left, which is in the past perfect. Here we have when. And when is followed by the simple past. And this sentence here, Julie had just left, is the first action. That's why I put it in the past perfect here. So this one here is the second action, and we need to put it in the simple past. So the answer is going to be, when he arrived at the party, Julie had just left. Sentence number 4. Ahmed met William last September. And here we have last September, which means we're talking about the past. So automatically the verb will be put in the simple past. So we're going to say Ahmed met with one E William last September. Sentence number 5. William felt ill last night because he ate too many cakes. In this sentence we have felt ill last night. We're talking about the past or simple past. Again, this is because here to show the cause-effect relationship between these two sentences which happened in the past. And this sentence here, William felt ill last night, is the second action which happened. So we need to put the other verb in the past perfect because it is the first action. We will say William felt ill last night because he had eaten too many cakes. Let's move to another exercise. The question is, put the verbs in brackets in the correct form. Please stop the video again and try to do the exercise. So let's start with the first sentence. After I do my homework, I play some video games. The sentence here, after I do my homework, is the action which happened first. So it is the first action. So we need to use the past perfect. Say, after I had done my homework, I play some video games. And the verb play here should be put in the simple present. And we say, I played some video games. Sentence number 2. We already ate when John came home. Here, we already ate is the first action. Also, we have the word or the adverb already here. So we need to use the past perfect. And we'll say, we had already eaten. And remember, this word already, always put it between the auxiliary had and the verb. The verb come should be put in the simple past. So the sentence is, we had already eaten when John came home. Always remember, when we have when, it is always followed by the simple past. Sentence number 3. When we arrive at the station, the train already leave. The sentence here, when we arrive, is the second action. And also, as I said, when we have when, it is always followed by the simple past. So the answer is, when we arrived at the station. And also need to put the verb leave here in the past perfect because it is the first action. And we have the word already here. So we're going to say, the train had already left. Sentence number 4. I discovered I forget my passport when I get to the airport. So this sentence here, I discovered I forget my passport, is the first action. And in the first action, we usually use the past perfect. So I'm going to say, I discovered I had forgotten my passport. The verb get, we need to put it in the simple past, automatically speaking. And also remember, we have when here. So when is always followed by the simple past. So we're going to say, when I got to the airport. The last sentence. Last year, Ali passed all his exams. In this sentence, we have last year. So automatically speaking, we're talking about the past. So we're going to use the verb in the simple past. And the simple past of the verb pass is past. So the sentence is, last year, Ali passed all his exams, which means he succeeded in all his exams. Here is another exercise. These sentences are all taken from previous national exams. Let's start with the first one. Tom's uncle worked in Marseille for several years before he moved to Paris last year. This sentence here, we have before, and then we have moved, which is in the simple past, and also we have last year. And then we have here several years. We're talking here about the period of time in the past. And the sentence, Tom's uncle worked in Marseille for several years, is the first action which happened in the past. So we need to put the verb work in the past perfect. And then we're going to say, Tom's uncle had worked in Marseille for several years before he moved to Paris last year. You can also use the past perfect continuous here and say, had been working. It's correct as well. Let's move to the second one. Last summer, I traveled by plane to Paris for the first time. I felt very nervous during the journey because I never take the plane before. We have last summer and traveled. So we're talking about the simple past. And here we have during, which means a continuous action. So the verb felt should be put in the past continuous. So we can say, I was feeling very nervous during the journey because. And here we have because to show again the relationship between past actions. So, and also we have never. So when we have the word never, already, etc., we use the past perfect. So we're going to say, had never taken the plane. Let's move to the next one. John says, I'm sorry, Peter, I couldn't see you off. When I got to the airport, your plane already take off. Here again, we have already. We have also here, when I got to the airport, which is the second action which happened in the past. So the verb take off should be put in the past perfect. And then we're going to say, when I got to the airport, your plane had already taken off. Peter says, don't worry, I will try meet you when I come back. If you notice here, we have the verb I will try is put in the simple future. Here, you're going to use the rules that you have learned in the lesson of gerund and infinitive. So we have I will try. It is followed by to plus verb. I will try to meet you when I come back. And that's correct answer.